Here we are at Bellwether Garden Supply, and today we're going to talk about payroll transactions. In Accounting 240, we do not do a whole lot with the payroll side. We do have a class called Accounting 150, which is all about payroll, and we learn how to do payroll by hand and also with the use of payroll software. But I do need to show you just a few things on payroll transactions that you'll need to be able to do with for your project 4/5. So on Bellwether Garden Supply, we have an Employees and Payroll button, and here are the various buttons that we have. If you were setting up a major company, you would set up this payroll setup, and it has a wizard that you can go through and set up all the various state taxes and all kinds of things. You're not really going to need that for your project. 1099s are what you have to give to independent contractors. If you have any that are individuals as opposed to incorporated and they make more than $600 a year from you, then your company has to give them a 1099. It's kind of like a W-2. You're going to have to know their name, their address, and their social security number. But with 1099 independent contractors, we're not going to take out any taxes generally. But here's where we can keep track of that, so that in January of next year, when we're getting out W-2s to the employees, we can also process these 1099s on Sage. We will not be doing anything with this as far as our projects are concerned. Users, of course, payroll is a very sensitive topic, and you don't want everybody in the company knowing everybody's payroll information, social security numbers, and how much they make and everything. So the users of this entire section of payroll buttons and everything and payroll information should be restricted to just those people who are in the payroll department. And this is where you can set up that kind of thing. And so we're not going to need that either. So here is where your employees are, and we're going to, you can set up some employee defaults. Now these are the defaults that are set up for Bellwether Garden Supply. Here are some custom fields, and there's 5 different custom fields. So a Bellwether Garden Supply wants to know what position does each employee have in the company, when their birthday is, who their spouse is, who their emergency contact is, and when do they get their annual review. Here is the account numbers that we need to set up for their various payroll taxes that we're going to take out of them. So these are the employees, what taxes we're pulling out of the employees. So we're pulling out federal income taxes, social security taxes, Medicare taxes, state income taxes. Okay, and so what accounts do you want those to be put into when I take it out of the employees? So this is where you'll set that up. Okay, these red check marks say that yes, we're going to calculate those things. You're not going to calculate them on your project. Okay, or you can, but know that they're wrong. Okay, so you can set them up to calculate, but know that the educational version of Sage does not have the real IRS Circular E tables in them. And so the numbers that you're going to get are wrong, and you could not use this educational version to do real payroll. Even if you have a real regular version of Sage, you have to pay to update the payroll section every year, because how much we need to take out for taxes changes every January, and so you have to pay them to update the payroll for that year. The company fields, we've talked in Accounting 101 how the employer has employer costs, where the employer has to match the Social Security and Medicare, and the employer has unemployment taxes. And so this is the liability account in the general ledger that we're going to use, and you can see that's federal payroll taxes payable. Okay, and here is our payroll tax expense account that we're going to use. You can see that's called payroll tax expense. So you will need those two accounts for your project as well. This has to do with performance evaluation. You're not going to need this for your project. Employment status can be put on each employee, and you do not need this for your project as well. So once we have those employee defaults set up, we can set up a new employee. And so the employee ID number, and let's go ahead and okay, choose one here. You can see their ID numbers for employees are just like customers, vendors, and inventory. It's all in capitals, and they chose to use the first initial of the first name along with the whole last name, and all in capitals as being their ID. Then they have the actual real name of this employee, and over here they have that this is an employee. Okay? They have his name and address and information there. Okay? Additional information. We won't need this for the project. Here's the pay info, and we do need this. This says, how is Alex Cornell, how is he paid? And he's paid hourly, but there could be salary or something that's on time tickets, and we'll talk about that more at the end of the semester. The pay frequency is bi-weekly, which means it's every other week, such as every other Friday. So you could have weekly paychecks. Semi-monthly means twice a month. So usually like on the 15th and then the last day of the month. And then there's monthly salaries, or annual, such as if this is a bonus or something. Okay? And so since he's being paid every other week, that means he's being paid for 2 weeks worth of work. There's 40 hours a week, and so 80 hours is a regular paycheck for him. Now, if he has overtime, that's listed down here. What is his overtime rate? It's time and a half. Of his regular rate is $14 an hour, and time and a half is $21. If there's a special double time for maybe coming in on a holiday or a Sunday or something like that, that the company gives double time, then that is listed here as $28 an hour. This is the account. 77,500, which is wages expense. Whenever we give him a check, we're going to be debiting wages expense. Okay. Here's the withholding info tab, and here we put down whether Alex is married or single and how many allowances he had. He had to fill out a W-4 form when he first got hired, and that's going to show this information. On your project, you're told this information, so you can fill that in. Okay? This is if he has any additional holding, like he is married with 2 allowances, but he wants an extra $5 withheld from his check on top of whatever is calculated from married to. So he doesn't have any of these. And Georgia is his state income tax. Okay? This is where you can calculate how much vacation hours he gets and how much sick pay hours he gets per year. And if you set this all up, then the computer will keep track of each employee and how many sick days do they have left and how many vacation days do they have left, etc. This is our employee. When we take it out of the employee, what account are we going to put it in? When we set up the inventory defaults, we already set these up. So if you didn't set up the inventory defaults, you would have to set them up for each individual employee. But we already set them up in the defaults. When we take money out of Alex Cornell for federal income tax, we're going to credit federal taxes payable, federal payroll tax payable. The company fields is for the employer costs. As we said, we have to match the FICA and also pay unemployment costs. And again, we set these up in the default, so we don't need to set them up for each individual employee. Okay? If I didn't want to use the defaults for Alex in particular, I could uncheck this use defaults and then put in whatever account number that I wanted his stuff to go to. But as long as I'm using the defaults, then the numbers are grayed out because we'd already told those numbers in the inventory default section. Back in the first general tab, there's an employee beginning balances. And so you will need this when you set up employees. And so you would set up the gross wages and how much federal income tax had come out, Social Security tax, Medicare, state, etc. You could put that all in here, along with any dates at the top that had already happened before now, before you're setting up this employee. Okay, let's take a look at paying the employees. We use this button that says Pay Employees, and you want to say Enter Payroll for one employee. And so I'm going to bring up Alex Cornell. Okay, and you can see that the date here is for March 15th. If I need to change that date, I can. How many weeks in the pay period? There's 2 weeks in the pay period. He's got 80 hours. Let's say that Alex put in 5 extra hours overtime this sometime during the last 2 weeks. So we can put a 5 in there. Automatically, as soon as I put that 5 in there, it recalculated all these taxes that it's taking out of this check, recalculated his net pay. Here it is. Okay, if I say he had 8 hours, notice that as soon as I press enter, the $972 check is going to change, and now he's getting $1125.44. And so that makes it very nice. Now, remember that these amounts that are being taken out are not the correct numbers in the educational version. So just remember, you cannot use this for calculating real payroll. Now, if there's any of these numbers not coming up and you need to put them in, then you can calculate them and punch the number in. Notice it's giving you a chance, because it's a white box, and you just highlight the number, put in the number that you want, and if it's something that's going to come out of their check, you put a minus sign with it. Okay? These things here that don't have a minus sign are not coming out of the check. This is telling you that 3.08 hours accrued during this pay period for a vacation, okay? And he has 40 hours of sick pay that he still has left, okay? These that don't have a minus sign, these are the employer costs, so they're just showing you what they are. That says ER for the employer. They're just showing you what they are, okay? Those are not coming out of his check, okay? Only these ones up here with the minus signs. So if you need to calculate anything, just put it in there with a minus sign, and it'll subtract it from his check and give him the net pay, which is up here. Here's my journal entry. It shows that we're debiting these wages expense for his gross wages, and we're crediting the payroll tax payable for the amounts that's coming out of his check. And way down at the bottom, we're crediting $10,300. Notice that's a payroll checking account. Lots of times a company has a separate checking account for the payroll checks, because that way it's only the payroll department people that are dealing with the bank reconciliations, etc., and only they will get to see then how everybody's check. Okay, there's also, this includes the journal entry for the employer costs, and all those payroll tax expense debits and payroll tax payable will be credited. All right, let's take a look at one more. Let's take a look at, we also want to pay Brandy Nunnally. Okay, now Brandy Nunnally is on a salary instead of hourly. And so here's her basic salary. And she's also paid for 2 weeks. But this is, she just gets a flat amount salary. So only if she gets some kind of bonus or commission does she get extra. People that are administrative, professional people that are on salary do not get time and a half. They're expected to work for that straight salary, even if they worked a few less hours or a few more hours than their 80 hours for the 2-week period. But she might have some kind of bonus or commission for sales or something like that, and if we put that in, the same thing would happen as with Alex Cornell. It would immediately recalculate everything. Okay, here we have some reports, and you can see there's a payroll register, a payroll journal, a payroll check register. The current earnings report shows each employee and how much that employee earned, so you would be using that as well if you were on the job. We will not be need any of these payroll related reports.